England have reached the final of Euro 2024. They are one game away from immortality after beating the Netherlands by 2-1. And this is how they did it. Let's begin by talking about the big controversial moment of the match. And no, for anyone asking, I don't think this is the reason that England won the game. I can understand why a number of Netherlands fans will be really disappointed and will think that. And I understand it does change the game state somewhat, but I don't think this was the reason. But let's talk about the penalty, because for me, it just was not a penalty at all. The collision here between Dumfries and Kane is not a penalty for me. Of course, guys, get in the comments below. Let me know your thoughts on it and whether you thought it was a penalty or not. As I'm sure you all will know by now, I am a huge England fan. I want England to win. I want England to do well. But I can't sit here and tell you that it's a penalty, because it's just not. And I don't think it's because there isn't contact. I don't think it's not because it doesn't hurt Kane. I just think that it's not intentional. I don't think it's an intention to play Kane as in terms of a foul. I don't think that there's any real proper contact that's initiated by Dumfries. He almost just leaves his leg there and Kane kicks it. And while some people might say that in the centre of the park and anywhere else on the pitch it could be a foul, while I agree with that and I do understand where they're coming from, let me try to tell you why I don't think it can be considered a penalty. With a free kick, you get a standard free kick and you get to restart the game with possession for your side. But with a penalty, it's far more. You gain far more from a penalty than you do for a free kick. And for me, in that case, the threshold for what is considered a penalty needs to be a lot higher. And we can see here, Kane is about to kick the ball. Dumfries doesn't actually make a proper play. He just leaves his leg there. And I understand it's lazy. I understand it must hurt Kane. And that's why I think they've looked at it. I think they've looked at it because Kane's foot makes connection with Dumfries' studs. But for me, a penalty needs to be so much more. And I wouldn't mind if Dumfries actually makes a play for the ball and tries to foul him, but he doesn't. Kane ends up kicking the back of Dumfries' foot, and he obviously is hurt, clearly, but for me it's just not a penalty and shouldn't be considered one. England for me got away with one there. England played the best half of football that we've seen from them in the entire tournament, and it was this level of performance that really influenced and dictated how the game was going to unfold for me. And this is because of the problems that England caused the Netherlands with their system. Their 4-man midfield box in the centre of the park meant that the Netherlands had a number of different problems to try to deal with. Number one was the highness of England's wingbacks. Because Bukayo Saka and Kieran Trippier were so high, it meant that Daniel Marlin and Cody Gakpo had some massive problems that they needed to try and solve. Do they either initiate in the press with the likes of Xavi Simons and Memphis Depay, or do they drop back to try and help out with their fullbacks? Nathan Ake does not want to be in a 1v1 with Bukayo Saka, and Dumfries, while he is happy to be in a 1v1 with Kieran Trippier, he also doesn't want the run in behind him from Jude Bellingham, which did end up happening on occasion. So Daniel Marlin and Gakpo ended up being dropped back just a little bit too far, and that meant that Xavi Simons and Memphis Depay, from a pressing point of view, just couldn't get anything going, because look here, you have essentially what is a 5v2, and that just never really worked, so they needed to drop off a little bit more. This naturally gave a load of encouragement to the England back line, and it just pushed Kobbie Mainoo and Declan Rice up a little bit further. Mark Gahey started to enter the opposition half. Declan Rice was able to occupy Memphis Depay, John Stones moving forward, and Kyle Walker took up this position on a number of occasions. This freed up Kobbie Mainoo to really go drifting. But instead of Xavi Simons and Memphis Depay following these runs, it really allowed Mainoo just to drift down this right-hand side. Phil Foden moving from left to right, and it meant that Reinders had a massive problem. This is the first major instance that England caused a real 2v1 situation with Kobbie Mainoo, Phil Foden, and Reinders. Because the problem they had is that if Reinders jumped off of Foden and went onto Mainoo, the ball could easily be recycled through Kyle Walker into Bukayo Saka and into Phil Foden. And this is where a number of Phil Foden's chances came from. It was Reinders being overloaded on a number of different circumstances. There was in fact one particular moment where Bukayo Saka had the ball, Kobbie Mainoo was waiting, he was occupied. Kyle Walker makes a run through the centre, or through that right-hand channel of the Netherlands back four, and it meant that Reinders needed to follow the run. Because Reinders followed the run, there was a massive channel of space in this area, and that's exactly where Phil Foden received yet another pass. The rotation that England had in a number of different circumstances dictated how the Netherlands really came out and played, and we've seen that Ronald Koeman decided to make a change. It was of course because of Memphis Depay getting injured, but I fear that he would have needed to have made the change a lot sooner because of the way that England dominated that midfield. Their ability to rotate through, their ability to drop deeper whenever they needed to, meant that England always had a spare man. And it was in doing this that dictated the flow of the game. But not only that, in substituting one of their main attacking players for an extra midfielder to, yes, increase the balance and really have an extra man in midfield, the Netherlands are also almost neutralizing themselves, not giving themselves an opportunity to then go and make those counterattacks. Instead of bringing on a forward and asking him to drop, we saw that Ronald Koeman decided that he valued those extra men in midfield over the real ability to go forwards and play that direct passing. And this is how England influenced the Netherlands and really started to dictate the game. And this is exactly what I'm talking about. England make some movements towards the right-hand side and then move in field. Kobbie Mainoo with the ball here. But just look at the positions of the Netherlands players. So you have your one centre midfielder, you have your other centre midfielder. Kobbie Mainoo and Phil Foden have both broken the lines here. This is actually Memphis Depay who's trying to make some kind of a covering run, and it just doesn't work. And this is down to the rotation and the ability for both of them just to drive through the heart of this Netherlands midfield because of the extra bodies that they have on the pitch. And they are able to drive through. Obviously, Phil Foden gets the ball. It doesn't quite go in, but really, really promising signs. And this kid has some talent. Kobbie Mainoo is just fantastic, and his ability to drive, find passes, his calmness through the play is just second to none. Is fantastic and one of the major reasons why this England side are ticking. But let's take a look at another moment, and I mentioned the Kyle Walker run. This is actually it. He makes a brilliant run through into the box, and that just drags away the centre midfielder in Reinders right here. And if he drags him away, look at the amount of space that's left for Phil Foden. Look, it's a perfectly weighted run, a great weighted pass, and Phil Foden is in acres of space to try and take that on the half turn, which is exactly what he does to try and get a shot off. It's just fantastic. And again, Cody Gakpo has to try and drive inside because of the rotation, but you also have one, you have two. You could argue Bellingham could move here and you've got three. There are so many players and so many options for this England side, and that's down to the system they played and the setup that Gareth Southgate had from the get-go. And this for me summed up how well England played perfectly. This is actually in the second half, not in the first half where I thought they had most of their great performances. But here it just really encapsulates what I think England did so well. So first of all, player on the ball right here, but look how deep this Netherlands back line are. Look, they're holding the edge of their penalty area, which is fine, but the distance between the back line and the forward line is a bit far. There are also massive pockets of space between the forwards and the midfielders. Xavi Simons is looking uninterested at this point, and Wout Weghorst is looking the same. But look at the difference between them and the England players. You've got Declan Rice slotting into a right centre-back role right here, and that's because Kyle Walker has taken up a position on this right-hand side. This allows Bukayo Saka to drift in field, and already, guys, we're starting to see the rotations here. And then on the flip side of that, although he doesn't get the ball, Luke Shaw is right here, and he's ready, he's stretching the play, he's making them think. Denzel Dumfries is now looking and wondering whether he's going to receive the pass. All of this comes together to create a brilliant moment that, yes, gets called for offside, but it's still fantastically worked. Kyle Walker makes that run in beyond. This then drives those Netherlands players back once more. They forward it on, And Phil Foden again driving at the heart of this Netherlands defence. Just brilliantly done, brilliantly worked. Kyle Walker is about to receive the pass, brilliantly waited, but he just goes a little bit too early. And then you're wondering, can you make the most of the space, which is something I don't think England have done all too much. You're going to ask for Bellingham to run into the box, Kane to be able to make a darting run, and in the end it's Bukayo Saka who ends up making that run for England. The ball gets played in, brilliantly worked, brilliantly weighted, and unfortunately it's just offside. But it's the rotation from these England players, the movement, the confidence and the bravery to be able to take those different moments and really try to create something special. I thought England were absolutely fantastic. And then we've finally got to talk about the goal, that moment. We're talking about Cole Palmer being able to find a pass in between the lines, which we know he can do, but the spaces are now opened up because it's later on in the game. And just look at this. So you've got Bukayo Saka, Cole Palmer, Kobbie Mainoo, all driving towards this Netherlands defence. You've got 3 against 2 here. You've arguably got 4 against 3. It's incredible work. It's fantastic. Of course, Ollie Watkins, the man of the moment. I've seen so many people calling for Ollie Watkins to start, calling for him to get some minutes, and thankfully he finally gets some, and he makes it count pretty brilliantly, I might add. He is just fantastic. But what I really liked here, if we just take it past the pass from Cole Palmer, who played it brilliantly, I might add. It just finds that run, finds that space. Excellent. But right here, when Ollie Watkins takes the touch, notice 2 things. Number 1, he doesn't get it stuck in between his feet. Look at where the ball is. He doesn't get it stuck, and that means that the momentum that he has isn't lost. He's not stationary. He's still able to move, and that is crucial, because if he can't move and he stops the ball, he is then going to be pinned by De Vrij, who is desperate to try to stop him from spinning. Because the ball is just away from him, he's allowed to drift that little bit further and then use the rest of his momentum for that swivel swinging shot. And without that momentum and without that swing, I don't believe this goal comes about. And I just wanted to highlight that brilliance of Ollie Watkins to be able to take it in that turn, in that moment, and then fire it home. England are in the final of Euro 2024, and I cannot wait. They thoroughly deserve it, in my opinion, and for me, I think they were the better side on the night. But of course, guys, let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. How well did you think England did? Are you excited for the final for Euro 2024? And of course, let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. Thank you ever so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed. I hope you learned something new, and I hope to see you in the next one. But until then, my friends, take care. Come on, England!